and welcome to Dining and Vibing SA. I'm Edwin Cole, and today we explore the exquisite experience of coastal dining in South Africa along the South Coast, where most seek luxury and leisure, others seek dining pleasure. Hey guys, we're at Trattoria La Terrazza. Here, a beautiful gem in the south coast of Durban, South Broom South to be exact. Truly, location is everything here. Beautiful nature surrounded by a river and lagoon, all in one. In fact, we got the opportunity to speak to Nikki, who's going to tell us exactly where the design, the location, and the history of this place came to be. Stay tuned. Located alongside a serene estuary, surrounded by the natural beauty of one of South Africa's coastal biomes, the Trats, fondly known as, offers world-class cuisine and consistent service, providing those who appreciate a carefree coastal feel, delicious food, and quality wines with a truly elegant escape. Nikki! It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for having us.
No,
we greatly
pleasure.
appreciate
Great,
it.
pleasure.
I can't wait to get down to the bottom of exactly how this gem came to be.
Okay.
You ready?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Let's get
Yeah.
into it. So once again, we're here at Trattoria La Terrazza. And as you can see, the energy and the atmosphere is definitely one to brag about. I'm here with the beautiful and wonderful Nikki, who's going to tell us everything we need to know about the genesis and birth of this beautiful gem. Nikki, you said 29 years ago. Talk me
Yes.
through that. How did it start? How did you get here and you realized,
Wow.
yes, this is where it's happening?
God. I came here on holiday and came here for lunch with my parents. And I just thought, what a divine place. And I was living in Joburg at the time and really bored, needed a change. And I went back home and I said to my husband, I found the most divine place. We've got to go and look at it. And we came here on holiday and we had far too much sangria. We sat down on the lower deck and we fantasized about opting out. And that's exactly what we did a year later. So we packed our bags and came here with our baby, who was 1. And we've been here ever since. And it's just been a magical place to be and a fabulous place to bring up a child right on the beach.
Wow.
And we've loved it. We've looked around, we've been all over South Africa, but we actually never found anything as unique as this.
Wow.
Yeah, it's uncommercial, it's charming. Maybe uncommercial is not a good thing being in business, but it's got enough of both to make it appealing.
Brilliant. So, given that this is such a beautiful, well-hidden gem, what would you say is the one thing that you have that no one else has?
Wow. Well, definitely food-wise you're talking about. Okay. So completely original and not particularly traditionally Italian is our spaghetti gamberi, which is a very thin spaghettini. And we do that with sauteed prawns with tomato, garlic, ginger, chili, coconut milk. And that's definitely not Italian, but we live in KZN and I've got access to all those divine products.
That's it.
And actually it's our bestseller, it's amazing. So that's fabulous, nobody else has got that because that came out of my head. And we do some other stunning meat dishes. We do a very traditional Florentine T-bone, which is stunning. They have them in Florence, but nobody I know in South Africa has them, where the meat is cut off the bone in thin strips. And it's a super big T-bone. It's enough for a family of 2 or 3 to eat.
Or just one.
Or one very hungry person.
Which I am very now.
Yeah.
With all of this talk of food, my goodness, Nikki. So you're definitely an innovative genius in the kitchen, hey?
Absolutely. Well, I have moments of creativity. Yeah, absolutely. It's you've got to be. I've been in it for so long. One has to have continuity and keep on feeling inspired. So I have to travel to do that. So when I need inspiration, I go to Cape Town and I eat at beautiful restaurants there, bring back ideas and try them here. And yeah, it keeps things fresh.
I like that. So if I understand correctly, you go and you source out what everyone's doing. You see what usual Italian restaurants serve and you say, okay, cool. How can we upskill that? And how can we take what KZN has to offer and bring the two together? Hey.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow. And what would you say is one of the challenges with creating a menu that's sort of an Italian and Durban / KZN mix?
Well, our weather, I mean, it's so hot now. For instance, we can't get basil, we can't get rocket. In December, it's impossible to get lettuces because of our heat.
Yes.
So you've got to be practical. I've often had pestos on my menu, but I've got to take them off because you just can't access basil.
Oh, no.
So whereas, you know, you can get a lot of other things that aren't traditionally Italian. So I've made a bit of a hybrid menu. But I
like
think,
that word.
Yeah,
I like that word.
Absolutely. I think it keeps things interesting. We're not blinkered Italian. I don't do traditional Italian food. Like to have something a little bit more innovative, a little bit more contemporary, really.
Okay, makes
Yeah.
sense. Now, it took me a very long time to get the exact pronunciation of that name. Trattoria
Okay.
La Terrazza, is that right?
Trattoria La Terrazza.
Trattoria
Yeah.
La Terrazza.
Yeah.
Talk me through that name. Was it the original name or did you come up with that?
I promise you I would never have called a restaurant that name. Do you know what a nightmare it is when I say, hi, this is Nikki from Trattoria La Terrazza. I've got to say it 3 times. It's impossible to, you know, place orders. So no, I didn't make, that's not mine. But Trattoria is like, you know, the same as Osteria. It's a sort of category of restaurant
Okay.
in Italy. So you get osterias, trattorias, pizzerias. Basically, it's an eating place. But La Terrazza means the terrace, which is what we've got all the way around here and that.
Okay.
So that's the direct translation. But in my next life, I definitely won't ever have a restaurant called that.
But I suppose it makes sense because now that you've explained it, it definitely gives the atmosphere.
know.
Well, once people get the hang of
Well, it paints,
pronouncing
it paints a picture if you understand Italian.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Have you had any Italians that are originally from Italy come through and
Yeah.
enjoy your experience?
Yeah, absolutely, lots.
Wow,
Yeah.
and how did they feel when it came to that hybrid mix of Italy and
Well, it's
KZN?
not totally traditional, and but the pastas that they order or whatever they order, they love, especially the T-bone. You know, there's something here for everybody. And my favorite story is, you know, Italians always want to know, is your husband in the kitchen? And I say no, and they say, well, who does the cooking? And I say, well, I've got Zulu chefs. And they're blown away.
Wow, wow.
But they expect Granny to be in the kitchen
Yes.
or me in the kitchen, which I am, but I'm also out front. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can train people to do amazing things.
I think that's so fantastic because traditionally Italian families pass down
Absolutely.
their restaurants and they
Yeah.
always make sure that there's always a family member in the
Yeah,
kitchen
yeah.
managing it and making the recipe how
Absolutely.
grandma from the very first inception has
Exactly.
taught it.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because now you've sort of been taught a certain way and
Yeah.
you now know what exists and what has existed.
Yeah,
And-
absolutely.
And you not only you're not harboring that to yourself, you're sharing it with
Yeah.
people who want to help you out. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I
Have you
cook
had-
what I love. I cook what
That's
I like to
important.
eat.
Yeah.
And I've got some wonderful recipes that my husband's mother gave me, for instance. And she was very instrumental in not teaching me to cook, but, you know, talking through recipes and
Yes.
the way things should be. And I worked in a restaurant in Joburg. We owned a restaurant there for quite a few years, and I
Okay.
worked in the kitchen with the Italian chef.
Oh, I see.
But I'm self-taught, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
And out of curiosity, I just have to know, is there any Italian descent maybe in the family?
Well, my husband's Italian.
Really?
Yeah.
Does he have an authentic Italian name?
Oh, absolutely.
I'd love
Yeah,
to hear it.
Massimo.
Oh, Massimo. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Okay. Is Nikki short for something or does it have a
Well,
little flair?
it's short for Nicola.
Nicola.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, guys, as you can see, everything and more to come to Trattoria La Terrazza.
Well said. Yeah, you got it.
Thank you. I was so worried about that. But this has been Eddie, and we're out here at the wonderful gem hidden in the south of South Room, KZN.
Great. Well, what we've got is a very traditional pasta. This is an angel hair pasta. It's called capellini, and it's with vongole, which are baby clams. So it's just very simple. It's just white wine, garlic, a little bit of chili, olive oil, and that's it. Lots of parsley. And that's, somebody ordered a very plain fillet, so that's super plain. We normally do it with a divine mustard sauce and lots of trimmings, but they obviously wanted a plain one. And this is also very traditional Italian. This is called vitello tonato.
Today I'm going to make you our traditional lemon margaritas made in-house. We have two versions of it. It's going to be the berry margarita, which is not the traditional way, but it's actually very popular on the South Coast. And we'll also make it the traditional way, with lemon. They're both served frozen and in a martini glass.
Oh wow, served frozen. That's really attractive. I don't think we've ever had a margarita that way. Well then, what are we waiting for? Let's get to it. But it does get better after the second sip.
According to Wikipedia, the history of coffee dates back to centuries of old oral tradition in modern-day Ethiopia. However, neither where coffee was first cultivated nor direct evidence of its consumption prior to the 15th century have been found. Sufi monasteries in Yemen employed coffee as an aid to concentration during prayers. Coffee later spread to the Levant and Persia in the early 16th century. It caused some controversy on whether it was halal in Ottoman and Mamluk society. Coffee arrived in Italy the second half of the 16th century through commercial Mediterranean trade routes, while Central and Eastern Europeans learnt of coffee from the Ottomans. By the mid-17th century, it had reached India and the East Indies. Coffee houses would establish themselves in Western Europe by the late 17th century, especially in England and Germany. One of the earliest cultivation of coffee in the New World was when Gabriel Declue brought coffee seedlings to Martinique in 1720. These beans later sprouted 18,680 coffee trees, which enabled its spread to other Caribbean islands like Saint-Domingue and also to Mexico. By 1788, Saint-Domingue supplied half the world's coffee. By 1852, globally, Brazil became the largest producer of coffee and has held that status ever since. The period since 1950 saw the widening of the playing field due to the emergence of several other major producers, notably Colombia, Ivory Coast, Ethiopia, and Vietnam. The latter overtook Colombia and became the second largest producer in 1999. Modern production techniques along with the mass productization of coffee has made it a household item today. Next, Dining and Vibing traveled a few more kilometers south to discover Impegnati Coffee, where the simple things are valued, making a great product. Outstanding, premium, single-origin coffee. For generations, Impegnati Coffee have been farming the fruitful soil of KwaZulu-Natal, ensuring every bean originates from the rolling coastal hills of southern KwaZulu-Natal, where the Impegnati River itself over millennia has carved a course to the Indian Ocean. Hot, humid summers and mild, balmy winters are typical of the region. Added to the influence of the oceanic breeze, and you have growing conditions almost as premium as the beans themselves.
I drink probably about 8 cups of coffee a day. I'm a bit of a caffeine-aholic. My name's Maxine Makai-Cargill, and I do the social media for Impegnati Coffee. Well, Impegnati Coffee is the largest South African coffee farm, tree per hectare. And what most people don't know is while you do get a lot of South African coffee brands, most of that coffee is not grown and processed in South Africa. It's imported and it's put in South African branding.
So the brand was, or the coffee farm was established around about 4 years ago. The owner, Desmond Bichman, decided to start planting coffee. You know, the general consensus was that coffee wouldn't really grow on the coast over here due to the climates and so on. He's since been going for 4 years, so yeah, doing very well. The reason the coffee shop started up was because people wanted to come and enjoy the coffee on the premises. And so the idea was not only to have a coffee shop where we sell our coffee, but also to sell the food and so on, you know, and that's kind of how everything kicked off. So what we've got over here, guys, is the pulping machine. The process is we take the coffee berry that goes in here, it pulps, so it basically takes the bean out of the fruit. This is where all the pulp comes down. This is all your coffee pulp. So those are berries that have already had the bean extracted. These are used to dry the coffee. We take it down to a certain humidity, and once it's at the correct humidity, Then we will roast, and yeah, from the roast it goes to the grind and then to the cup. We have various different types of coffees here on the table. So this over here is a yellow honey. This is a fermented bean. The varietal over here is what we call a Rasmosa, so very high in sugar, very fruity and so on. And this is an F6 natural. So you can see it's still, the berry hasn't been pulped, so the actual bean is still inside the berry husk over here. And then lastly over here we've got the washed coffee. So you can see much different bean. This is an F6, so a much larger bean over here, still in the husk. The actual coffee farm is about 3 kilometers up the road from us, but all the processing and stuff, fermentation, pulping, hulling, and roasting is done right here. This is our hulling machine. So I'm going to turn this on quickly, guys. It's going to make a bit of a noise, but you're going to see what it does. So it literally removes the bean from the husk. So this over here is our shaker. This basically separates then the lighter material from the heavier material. Good beans from bad beans, really. The heavier beans will go onto the right, and the lighter chaff and so on will go down onto the left and through the center over here. Okay, so this is our sorting table. I call it the sorting table. This basically just sizes everything. So from your bigger bean right at the bottom to your smaller bean at the top. We had a look at that Rasmosa early on. So this is Rasmosa that's ready to be processed. Unfortunately, the table cannot grade this. It'll all go through the smalls. So we actually have to hand hull this machine. I mean this coffee. We have to hand hull this coffee. That's a tongue twister. Super expensive coffee. This will go for in the region of about 3,000 Rand a kilo. Firstly, because of the size, you know, obviously it's quite a rare varietal in South Africa. Not only that, it's because it's so small, you have to harvest so much of it to make up a kilo. So yeah, we got an estimate the other day, running roughly about 3,000 Rand a kilo, and pretty much all our Rasmosa has already been bought up, all been booked. Okay guys, so basically we're here in the roasting room now. This is where all the roasting happens. We like to do a medium roast in our beans. We find that it brings out the flavor the best. A lot of people like a dark roast, but you know, it's not always about the dark roast because they like a stronger flavor. We found that to bring out the right sugars and oils in our beans, a medium roast is the best. If you look over here, you can actually see we're at a point now which we call cinnamon. So when the beans start turning a cinnamon color, we've actually got a sampler over here. So from cinnamon, you get your first crack. Your first crack it actually makes it sound like a popcorn. So you'll hear it start to pop, and that's the bean actually expanding. So what happens is the bean expands, but you lose weight in it. Same as popcorn, you know, when it pops, it becomes nice and airy and so on. So what we'll do is we'll put the beans in the top over here. From there, it obviously goes into the roaster. We bring it up to a temperature of about 190 degrees. Then we'll open up the airflow, start letting some of the smoke out there and so on. And then take it up to 215 degrees before we drop and cool it in this patch over here. Roughly about 15 minutes from start to finish. So quite a timely process. I mean, if you're doing kilos upon kilos a day, it takes quite a while.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Dining and Vibing SA. Don't forget to keep up to date on all our social media platforms for more. And remember, that's the vibe.
Wanna feel good.